Hello, 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 I'm back. All right, so you can see now that there is a sheen, maybe you can see, there is a sheen over everything. And this, if I rub it, it will just start peeling off. So you need to, once you've done this with your liquid latex cover, you need to be really, really careful because it will just peel off once it's dried. But I'm hoping that by doing this, when I put heat, it won't curl up again as well. But we'll wait and see. I've never done this on the top of the guitar or any other thing before and applied heat. I just normally do it underneath. But I just thought if it does start running back, I really want to keep that resin to that side of my project. So that's the plan. I'm going to give this a wipe down too. Because there's still loads of dust. Alright, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to mix up some resin. Excuse me. And we are going to do a resin pour. And what I'm going to do is mix some clear resin and then some white, and we're going to blow it and see what results we get. And fingers crossed we get a good thing. The one thing I've got to do though is try and get this as level, because you can see at the moment it's really on, oh I don't know if it's obvious, but it's really wobbly, it's not even, and that was because it had a wedge underneath it as well, to allow the underneath of that liquid latex to dry properly. So I need to make sure, because at the moment it's leaning backwards, so if I put resin on here, I'm going to turn it around anyway, it will just flow off. And we don't want that to happen. We want it to sit and stay so that those cells can produce and stay where they're meant to be. So on that note, I'm going to get off and stop waffling, and I'll be back with you shortly when I'm ready to pour. So I'm using my Pujo resin. I'm just speeding up this footage a little bit because the video is quite long and I'm trying to keep my videos shorter. So I'm going to do 60 of part A and 60 of part B. Now in Perth here this morning when I was filming this, it was 3 degrees. So it was really cold. So I've had my Pujo resin sat by my radiator, which is warming my room. And because you need to work with warmer resin to allow that curing process to start. So there you can see that I'm taking the temperature and it's about between 24, 25 degrees. So that's good for mixing resin. And then when we mix it together, I'll put it back on the radiator just to get some heat going through and get that process started. So I'm doing 60 mils of part A here. And then we'll mix it in a separate cup and we'll get it going. Making sure I'm precise as well, because when you're measuring by volume, you need to make sure that you get it really accurate. So take your time and make sure you do. Otherwise, you could end up having soft resin that's not curing quite right. This is one of my old mixing cups and I reuse and reuse it. It's just a paper cup. And for any of my, subscribers that have been with me for a long time, you'll have recognised this cup. I've used it many, many times. It's just because it's paper doesn't mean you have to throw it away and save on the paper usage. So I just allow the resin to cure in it and I just keep using it. It's not good for measurements, but it's good for mixing. So I'm making sure that I'm scraping out all of the resin from each of the cups. Because we measured it precisely, you want to make sure that you get all of that resin out of each cup and into the new mixing cup. The reason you do this, and make sure you do scrape it down, because if you don't and you leave resin behind, then you are not guaranteeing that you've got the most accurate mix to make sure that your curing process is to the best of its ability. So it's really important I scrape down each one of my cups and get as much out as I can to make sure that my measurements are still equal. And then I give it about a good 3 minutes mixing. And then, as I say, I'm going to put it on the heat to get bubbles out and to make sure that that curing process starts. So I don't worry about mixing slowly on this because I'm pouring a flat surface. I'm not doing a casting and I'm not doing in a mould. And I'm going to use heat on it to blow my white so the bubbles will release. So I'm not going slowly when I'm mixing, but I'm making sure I've got a really good mix because I don't want parts to be soft on the resin. I want it all to be cured hard. There we go. Another quick mix. Make sure you've scraped down your spatula that you're using to mix with as well, because you can have unmixed resin on your spatula and then mix it in there and it's still soft then in those areas that's not mixed. So scrape down your sides, your base of the cup and the sides and of your spatula, and then give it another good mix before you are ready for your next step. If you can hear chewing in the background, my dog is chewing his chew bone. Sorry. All right. Looks like we have got that all done. So, all right, I'm re-gloving up now. So I've had my white on the radiator, and have a look at the difference now while I'm mixing. And you'll see it's nice and fluid and it's not thick and lumpy anymore. Ready? There you go. See that? No lumps. Lovely liquid. So it's just been on for a couple of minutes on that radiator, and that's enough to soften it so that when we mix it in our resin, we get a really consistent mix. If we put lumpy paste into our resin, you could get lumpy bits that will stay not fully mixed in, and then that will affect your pour. I'm just taking this one out that I mixed before. I'm going to use the other one that's got the resin that is more fluid. Get rid of that for now. So here we go. So in there, can you see there where that's been sat there from the previous? You can actually see the white and you can actually see the chemicals in there that help make the cells. So we're going to give it a good mix, making sure all those chemicals are thoroughly mixed in, because we want to make sure that we get the best selling action as possible. All right, and make sure you've got a good amount of your paste in your resin to mix in your white. But remember, keep it under 6%. So make sure it's 6% of your resin or less that you're using. If you put more than that, it can affect your curing of your resin. So just be careful. So I'm going to give this now a good mix together, and then we might get it into the bottle. Or I might sit it actually for a little while before I put it into the bottle. Excuse me. There you go. Make sure you give it a good mix. Scrape down the sides. Scrape your spatula to get all that white off your spatula and mixed in the resin too. This is a really, really lovely product as well. This Colour Passion Top Cell White is really wonderful to work with. It's a really vivid white. Look at that, really nice. So we'll go and sit that over there for a little bit. And what I'm going to do now is get the clear and pour it over my guitar and get that base level set. And then we'll leave that to sit for a little bit before we go ahead and do the next bit. Look at that now, virtually bubble free. Not bubble free because I've not sat it long enough or put it on the heater, but it is virtually bubble free. It's a beautiful resin. This Pugio from Colour Passion, I do recommend it. It's really lovely. I've got some in stock currently. And it's just a really nice product to work with. It's lovely. So I'm going to save some of this in this little pot here, as I said before, so that we can have that clear behind the white before we blow. So I'm going to sit that out of the way so I don't knock it over. And then let's get on to the fun bit. Let's get on to pouring. This is what we've all been waiting for. I can't wait to see how this glistens over this colour shift micas. And when you see it, as I pour it, you'll really see how stunning these colours come up. Ready? Let's go. Stop, Henny. No. Can you see the shimmer? It's actually, if you have a look at the bottom part of each of the poured lines, you can see some of the purple glimmering through. I'm not sure if you can quite see it the same from this angle, but and definitely at the back there where I did put the purple blue and then I covered it with the teal. Actually, it was the deep blue I covered it with. Deep sky blue was the shade, but the purple still slightly comes through. So I'm going to use my fingers here and just go ahead and smooth that resin out and get rid of any of those little marks where there's no resin. Make sure I've got a good cover all over the top. And then I'm going to do the messy bit, which is wiping the sides with all my fingers. Make sure those sides have got a good cover of resin too. It is stunning. And I was a bit worried about the beach colour because I thought that corn silk shade of the colour shift, I thought maybe it looks a bit too yellow. I actually really love it. When I put this resin over the top and then when I blew the white, and you'll see that shortly, it's stunning. It's stunning, and it was right for the job. It was a really good choice, actually. And can you believe that under that corn silk yellowy colour, there is black spray paint? Can you believe? You can't tell, can you? It's come up really, really well. But that black really makes these colour shifting pigments from Let's Resin or any other ones that you use, makes them pop. It's the best colour to put as the base colour to get the best results out of them. So what I'm just doing is pushing that resin back now, and because I don't want it rolling forward, I don't want it thick, I just want a thin layer, and I'm pushing it back, making sure it's now going to roll over the edge. And I'm just holding my guitar so it's not going to rock, and I'm pushing it down along that sides. Now, bearing in mind, it is a liquid, so it is going to run down the sides. It's not going to just sit there, obviously. But by putting a thin layer like this over the edges, you can feel with your fingers which parts have got cover on and which parts haven't. And I'm running it over and making sure that I've got an even coverage over all of it. And by pushing back the resin off the top, it's going to ensure that my resin doesn't flow over onto the wooden part where I don't want it to go. So I've only got a thin layer, but there's plenty on here for what I need it to do. So I'm almost, look at that, I'm almost caressing the sides. Isn't that funny? It looks like I'm going, But and what I'm doing is I'm feeling for like where the rough edges where I've sanded it. I'm just feeling those edges to make sure that I'm getting an even cover, because we don't want any bits missed. We want the resin to be on it all. And that's going to help when we're doing the blowing of the white. It's going to help those white bits to flow down the edges where we need it to be. So I'm really happy with the progress. I'm really happy with the colour choices that I've got on here. And as you can see, sorry, you can't see anything with my shoulder in the way. As you can see, putting the powder brushed on over that tacky black and then spraying with the spray varnish to seal it has really held it in place. And then putting the clear varnish on top, clear resin on top is really making these colours pop. It's really, really beautiful. I'm just making sure I'm pushing that resin back. We don't want it pulling forward. Want to make sure there's just a thin layer at the front there. It was just a little bit too thick on that little bit there. So I'll push it out the way, push it over the sides. It's just lovely, stunning. And don't worry if you're leaving any grooves in the resin, because it is self-leveling and it will flatten itself. Look at that messy glove. I'm going to remove that glove and get rid of it, because it is absolutely coated in resin, and I can always get another one in a little while. So I'm going to leave this now to sit, that resin, and then we'll get this white poured into my little bottle and get that ready, and let this resin sit for about 15-20 minutes before we add the white to our project. Alright, so it's starting to warm up. My little cuppa of clear is quite warm now, so before it flash cures on me, we're going to go ahead and move on. So just in case you haven't seen, I am a stockist of Colour Passion products. So if there's any colours that you're interested in, reach out. I am getting my shop organised, and you can find me at Miss Kika D for me on any of the different social media platforms. Alright, so let's get some gloves on. One there, and I'll just get a new one for my other hand. Make sure you're wearing all the correct masks and PPE. Keep yourself safe. Don't want to be breathing this in. Alright, let's have a go. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to pour some... Oh, this is still really runny though. Oh, I want it a little bit thicker than that, I think. Well, let's do a layer. We can always wait a little bit longer and add some more if it gets too runny, okay? We want it quite thick. Otherwise, it will just... Yeah, I'm going to wait. Alright, I'm just going to go for it, because this is already at 45 degrees and we don't want a flash cure. So I'm just going to do a little clear line. Don't want too much. And a little clear line again. Okay. We'll just let that settle. Just use my mixing stick. I'm just going to push it where I want it to be. So what you want is a clear line of resin to blow your colour over. So blow your white over. Right, that's why I'm just making sure we've got it in the right area. Oops, just touched it with my finger. Okay, so I'm just putting some fresh on there so I can blow it over. I'll just clear that off my finger. Okay. And then just in front of that, we want to pour the white. Okay. Make sure I'm recording. Yes. All right. Okay, so I want a bit more than that. And you can see you get a lot more control over how much you're getting rather than from a cup. Okay. All right, let's see how we go with that. I'll pop that up there. Got my heat gun. This is not a temperature controlled or speed. It's only got the speed settings, not the temperature control. I really would love to get the Makita one with the temperature control. But this is what I've got, so this is what we're going to use right now. All right, so I'm just going to heat it up a little bit on high, just for a second. And then I'm going to just gently heat up the resin behind the white, just on the first setting, because I don't want it too hot. But we just want to be able to make that resin move. And I'm going to give that white a little blow, heat it up a little bit. And here. Alright. I'm going to just turn it up a fraction. Okay, now I'm going to keep it level so that we can blow it over the top. Now what you can see happening is it's getting very, very hot. Can you see the smoke? So just be careful you don't overheat it. I'm going to put a fan on now just to make sure that it's not going to get too hot. Now at the front there we want to put that line back on. This is really getting hot now from the heat now. So going to go and redress that front line. Okay. Let me just get a stick. Now, where I don't want, like this here, I overheated it. You could see it getting hot, and that's why we've got those happening. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some more clear. Okay. And here. So you can always change it, don't worry about it. If there's something you don't like, you can try. That's why we have extras, and that's why we keep the extra bits. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just gently smooth out this back area here where I've got the extra resin, and even where I don't like it. Okay, get rid of that off my finger, and the same here. So I'm just putting some resin back where I've blown it off and overheated it. And we're going to go again just on those areas, just make sure we've not got too much. What else I'm also going to do is get rid of that. I'm going to get my little stick, and where I don't want the resin to be, like here, I'm just going to remove that little bit there, that big thick heavy line of white. I don't want that. So I'll do the same, I'll get a bit more, take a bit more of that off. Perfect. And the same here. You'll always get that on the bridges, it'll run down there, so you have to just be mindful of that. Clean my gloves a bit before I touch my Makita, just to make sure I don't get white sticky everywhere. Ooh, look at that. Those gloves, those wipes are so good. Alright, so, and again, we're just going to give it a gentle blow, heat it up. Better. That's better. Much better. Loving that now. Much better. Beautiful. So what I'm not loving is that little mark there from the heat. So that's because there's not enough resin there. So I'm just going to add some resin. Okay. I'll just add some there too. Beautiful. Very happy I did that. You see, when you're not happy about something, you can correct it. Easy. Beautiful. Just want to make sure there's no heat spots. Beautiful cells. Look at that. There we go. Now we'll go along with be careful you don't touch your nozzle either with your arm while it's red hot. And we'll get our little bottle again. If it's not cured, it's getting sticky in my hands. And redress. I think it might be too sticky. Oh, good. All right. Well, how gorgeous are these colours now? Wow, look at that purple and the blue and the teal. My goodness, it's absolutely beautiful. So what I'll be doing is I'll be sanding this layer, and I'm going to pull out a survey, say, do I need to do another layer of waves or not? So you can go ahead and check that out and answer, and then tomorrow I'll either do another wave layer, or I'll just sand it back and put a clear coat over the top. So thanks for watching and staying with me to this point. I hope you've enjoyed this. And yeah, if you can, please subscribe if you haven't already done so, and like and leave me a comment, hit the bell and share it. Most importantly, share my videos if you